Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 5, last day of our mental health summit for Mental Health Awareness Month. This one's extra special because I get to work with my co-lead in a different way. So we're going to get to actually talk about things that she specializes in outside of the guild. So we're going to be chatting about To Write Love on Her Arms and the incredible work that they've been doing for so many years now. And as a stream ambassador for their ambassador program, it's an honor to have both you and Bree here to chat about mental health and give you some takeaways from the conversations that we've had this week. So I'm going to allow you two to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay. Bree, do you mind if I go first?
Take it away.
Okay. Hi, friends. You all know me as Ashlina, your guild leader, your leader for the Latin Guild. But outside of guild leadership, I'm also the community manager over at To Write Love on Her Arms. Very specifically, I work with content creators like you, whether it be fundraising efforts, answering questions, outreaching to you to see if you would be interested in fundraising for us, like things like that, just like community management type of things, that I would do in my job. But also, aside from that, and why I'm so excited to take this position is I'm also a mental health advocate. When it comes to my content and my streams, it's something that we very much talk about, and we're very open about it. I'm very open about it. So this job really means a lot to me. Content creation has also been a part of my life since 2014 for 11 years. So getting to put them together really means a lot to me. And honestly, working for TWLOHA is a dream come true because it's an organization that I have supported myself for the past few years. So it's really fun, and it's hard work, but it's worth it. And yeah, so that's a little bit of what I do. Did that answer the question? I hope it did.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna, but I go by Bree, she, her pronouns, and I am the Fine Help Program Manager with TWLOHA. I've been with the organization, it'll be 5 years in August, actually. So it's the longest job I ever had, and I think that just speaks volume. My role with TWLOHA consists of managing our treatment and recovery scholarship program. So we help to pay for mental health therapy. And then I also manage our Find Help tool, which we will talk about a little bit later. So glad to be here.
Excellent.
Yay.
Thank you again, Bree, for joining us today to give out some little handouts, because I feel like the conversations have been great and we've learned a lot about ourselves and each other, but having tangible things to share with the people that we love who may be going through crisis is so important to me. So I don't think I could have chosen better people to help me bring that to action today. So before we get into more mental health related conversations, I want to talk about TWLOHA a little bit more. So my first question is, for those who are new to your work, which I feel like a lot of our guildies are familiar with you all, but regardless, what is To Write Love on Her Arms and how did it begin?
So again, Bree, I hope you don't mind if I jump in. And
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not stepping on any toes or anything like that.
No toes being stepped on. Go ahead.
Okay.
No toes.
TWLOHA, To Write Love on Her Arms, is a non-profit movement dedicating to presenting hope and finding help for people struggling with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, self-injury, and suicide. We tend to cover those kind of, like, I don't want to say like darker in a negative way, but those like darker things that kind of present themselves when it comes to mental health. And it all started with our founder, Jamie. Jamie actually didn't want even, like, it wasn't even in Jamie's head to start a nonprofit. Basically, Jamie was helping a friend His friend was going through a lot of things. She was struggling with addiction, depression, self-injury, and suicidal thoughts. And he wrote a story about the first 5 days that he spent with her before she entered treatment. And during that time, he also made t-shirts and sold t-shirts to cover the cost of that treatment for her, which I think is just absolutely gorgeous and just beautiful and just speaks volumes to not only who he is as a person, but what this organization is. And when she entered treatment, he posted the story on MySpace because MySpace was very big at the time, and that gave it a home. And the name of the story was To Write Love on Her Arms. And that is how it all began. That is how it all started. It started from a story, a friend wanting to help another friend and be there for her, which is such like a huge part of our messaging, is that you're not in this alone. People need other people. So I think it's such a beautiful testament to what To Write Love on Her Arms is. Yes, Renee is alive and doing well as well. And to kind of share this, I have the link if you would like to read the story that Jamie wrote. I just posted it in the chat for you all. So it's just very beautiful. Like I said, it's a beautiful testament to Jamie as a human being, but also to what this organization is. Oh, and hearing that TWLOHA helped you all through dark times in your life really, really means a lot. And getting these messages from you all, like, we save them. We have a chat, like, in our Slack of all of the things that y'all send us and tell us about how our organization has helped you. So always feel free to share those things with us. Yay.
This warms my heart. I know that TWLOHA has been around for a very long time. Like I vividly remember seeing ads on TV when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So this experience, I'm sure, has been very full circle for you both, as it has been for me, just connecting with the team in this way and being able to make history with you all in such a special and beautiful way.
Absolutely.
I remember them. Oh, the plastic bracelets, for those who are listening and not seeing chat right now. I have to kind of remember that visuals are not included.
Right.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add on, Bree, before we move on to the next question?
That pretty much covered it. The only other question that we normally get about like the origin story and the name of the organization is like where the specific name To Write Love on Her Arms comes from. And that was because Renee was doing self-harm and, writing some not nice things about herself on her arm. And that's where the title To Write Love on Her Arms comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, again, like I mentioned, TWLOHA tends to cover kind of those more deeper and darker parts of mental health. And that is one of those things. And I think keeping it real and raw like that is so important when it comes to mental health. So like I said, it is an honor to be able to work for TWLOHA and everything like that. Yes. And when we share the backstory, we give you something to hold on to and latch on to, which I think is important. So,
yeah, thank you both for sharing, because I feel like everyone kind of knows what you all are about in terms of what you do, but having that context behind the name really makes it so much more meaningful and makes it make sense, even though it already made sense. Mental health is important, but having that additional context is always helpful. But on another note relating to Write Love on Her Arms, one of the mottos within your mission story is hope is a verb. which is the official title of this segment, not in the Discord name because it would have been very long, but it's part of the official title of today's segment. So, what does hope is a verb mean to your team? And how does it show up in your day-to-day work?
You want me to take that one, Ash?
Yeah, I would love to hear from you, and then I can add on at the end.
Sure. So for us, hope is a verb means a lot of just what that statement says, that hope is an action word. In the mission statement, it says hope is real, help is real. Especially because in the midst of things that we go through, and just trigger warning, if any of the, just a warning about, some of these topics may be intense for you guys. So if you need to step away, if you need to pause, feel free to do that. We're talking about mental health, so we want to be, it's a verb. We want to talk, we want to do what we mean and what we say. But yeah, it's an action word, just showing up for yourself, showing up for other people. And that could mean different things, especially because everybody deals with trauma or everyday life in different ways. And sometimes when you're in the midst of just an ongoing storm, sometimes help just seems like it's not real, like it's not there, that like there is no hope. That's a human emotion that when we go through things, sometimes we just feel like I can't make it through this, even though we're here today. We've made it through 100% of our worst days. But TWLOHA really just promotes that hope is real and help is real, and that everyone is deserving of it. And every day that hope could look like you just choosing to open your eyes and brush your teeth or drink some water. Like it varies from day to day. So it's definitely individualized, but it's an action word. And that's what TWLOHA really just pushes out there, that no, there is hope. Like there's hope. We're here to help. People need other people. You are worthy of that. We see you, we hear you. And that's for us, that is what hope is for me in my specific role. I manage our treatment and recovery scholarship program. So a lot of times people are sending me emails about like their life story. Like sometimes we get emails that are so long and so intense, it takes me a while to respond because of the amount of trauma and just personal experiences that people have had. And every day for me, hope is just responding to those emails. Granted, it's difficult to respond to all of them every day because I do get a lot of them. But we do try to get them out as soon as possible. But just letting people know that, we see you, we hear you. And I just try to always take all of those emails and those responses seriously, because somebody who's reading that email on the other end, like they could be at their wits end. And a lot of times people will email that like, hey, this is what I'm going through. I can't afford treatment. And so being able to let them know, hey, our scholarship's open. Like we can pay for up to 12 therapy sessions for you, up to $100 per session. And in this day and economy, that is a lot, because even with insurance, out of pocket costs, and just all these things, therapy people is just put on the back burner because people have to eat, people have to have a roof over their head, they have to have lights and water. And a lot of times mental health does take the back burner to those things. So being able to just give people that hope of, hey, you've been approved for a scholarship, we're going to pay for your therapy, get the help you need. And that is what hope being a verb looks like for me on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And just to kind of bounce off what Bree said, our scholarship is open until the 31st. If you need us to grab you that information, please let us know. We can drop it in this chat.
Yeah,
that would be awesome, Bree. It is open until the 31st. So if you are in need of that, please apply and tell us your story, and let us help you however we can. And again, to kind of bounce off what Bree is saying too, I think it's important to remember that healing is not a destination. It is a work in progress. It is a state of being. It's an action. Healing, there's no end to it. It's something that you do every single day. We say that hope is a verb to teach you and tell you to remember to practice it in your daily life. Remaining hopeful, it takes work. It does. And it's the most important work that you'll ever do for yourself. And Bree mentioned it, but you know, the state of our world right now is there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of things happening. And it's imperative that we remain hopeful. Very imperative. And I think also at this point in time, like being hopeful is a direct act of resistance and resilience to what is happening in the world. When you remain hopeful, and you practice that in your daily life, you are telling the world, you are telling these systems that often fight against us, that you will not let them win, that you will remain hopeful, and that you will work towards whatever it is that you are wanting to work towards, which in this case is healing. So I think that's very important. And when it comes to, Bree, I love how you like connected that with your daily work and what you do in your job. And for me, it's working with content creators. And I get to hear their stories, and I get emails that come into me as well, you know, talking about how TWLOHA has impacted them and why they want to work with us, why they want to partner with us, or why they want to fundraise for us. And being able to offer them a moment of comfort and say, hey, like, you are doing wonderful. Like, I'm so proud of you, you know, and thank you so much for sharing your story with me. You know, when you share your story, you're helping to break the stigmas, you're helping to mold, you know, it into something different. It's so important. And letting them know that the work that they're doing is valuable. Like, it just feels so good. So that is what hope is a verb means to TWLOHA. It's an action, it's an everyday. And just remember that, just like Bree said, it's not like healing is not linear. Like, it's a movement, you know, it's a dance, if you will. It's something that you'll do every day, every single day.
I love hearing both of your perspectives being within the same company, but on different teams, and how that might look like every day because of the people that you speak to. Because the communications are going to be different with someone who is showing their gratitude as a fan, I guess you could say, of To Write Love on Harms, which is a weird thing to say for a mental health org, but
we say supporter.
A supporter is way better. Yep. Yeah. Yep. A supporter of To Write Love on Harms versus, obviously, we as creators, we support you all too, but we're doing it in a different way that's more public facing, more front facing with other people, and amplifying that mission. So I loved hearing both of your perspectives on that. And I know that we said supporter, but I am still a huge fan of Love Under Arms. So
I was gonna mention real quick, like, we were very much a part of the music scene, and like, honest, like, Warped Tour is coming back this year, so like, we're still very, you know, involved with the music scene. So a fan also kind of sounds like the right word, because a lot of artists have worn our merch like while they're performing on stage. So I can 100% like get where fan comes from. So yes, but supporter. Yeah.
Thank you for validating me.
Of course. That's what I'm here for.
So I wanted to pivot a little more into advocacy and just how TWLOHA is a part of that story for you, but more of your personal approach with it. So this summit is all about showing up softly but authentically. We've talked a lot about authenticity and being true to yourself, but also being true to your needs and you coming first. How do you see creative storytelling as a part of this journey of authenticity and healing?
This is a big one. And I'm going to come at it from a content creator perspective, because that's the job that I have had the longest. So it's kind of easy for me to connect with that, like, first. So through storytelling, or in this case, you know, content creation, we get to use our voice in a different way. There's a lot of creative freedom that comes with content creation that we might not have elsewhere. I think it's also important to remember that, oh, hi, Moo. I think it's also important to remember that storytelling is different for everybody, whether it's through writing, reading, music, crafts, etc. There are different ways to reach people, and content creation for me, for example, is one of those things. When we're able to be our most authentic selves, like through the things that we're creating, we are not only being an advocate for ourselves, but we're being an advocate for others. We are basically saying, I am being myself and I am getting the freedom, or I have the freedom to do that, which also there's like privileges and things that come with that, right? But when you are yourself and you're being your most authentic self, you are telling other people you can be your authentic self too. There's like a freedom that comes with that when you're able to see someone else creating things and creating joy. And like for me, every day I try to wake up and create little moments of joy. It really is the little things, y'all, I tell you. And like a warm cup of coffee, going outside and like feeling the sun hitting my face in the morning, like listening to the birds, going in my butterfly garden, like creating those moments of joy. Like it's adding to that advocacy for myself, which then I take and I help others. Yes, exactly. Authenticity helps others feel more comfortable doing the same. Yes, when you are your authentic self, you show others that they can be too. Yeah. It's also an act of resistance, like I mentioned. The world tries to shape us from a young age. And the truth is we get to write our own stories. And for me, I get to do that with my content. And so when I'm able to, use the digital culture and like the tools to my disposal to do that, like I'm helping others see that they can also do the same thing and that there's no shame in it, which I think is huge,
Sorry, I have to get around Moo now to unmute my mic. That's why I muted it though, because this has been happening the past couple of sessions. I don't know if it's the energy, it's welcoming, which I think is very common with animals. They kind of know when an important conversation is happening that can bring some kind of comfort. Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
She doesn't really get on my desk like this, so I don't know what it is, but they're just babies. She's literally like looking at me and just yawning right at my face. Love it. Thank you. So I really appreciate that perspective because we show up as a certain version of ourselves as creators when we go live. This is something that I actually talked about with Jamie last night, and how there are so many facets to who we are as people, and the version of us that appears on stream isn't necessarily the version of us that's just existing at home and just being with ourselves. So I think that it's key to take advantage of that and still live in that authenticity, but also have that sense of protection. By the way, if you did miss the session, no worries. It's recorded, and these are all going to be posted tonight. So you didn't really miss it. You just didn't see it live, which is fine. But yeah, I wanted to pivot a little bit more into the content creation sphere when it comes to mental health offline, but still online, like more of social media and how it can be perceived on socials. So how can we navigate mental health as a trend? Because let's face it, there is a cult following for mental health advocacy on socials. There are quite a few of us who deem ourselves as advocates. But while keeping conversations grounded and sincere.
Yeah. Bree, I would love to hear from you, and then I could bounce off if you...
Sure.
Okay.
So one thing that I would say is really just being truthful with oneself with even the smallest questions. I know one of our one of the merch items we have, it says, "How are you really doing?" People don't realize that that simple question that we could ask, especially if you're, out and about, you work in a busy place or you engage with a lot of people, we say that simple sentence so many times throughout the day. Hey, how you doing? And it's like, I'm doing so good. And it's like, are you really? Like, have you eaten the last 2 days? Have you slept? Like those small things. And I think that being able to truthfully just ask ourselves that question and really just listen and create a space for others to be able to answer that simple question, those small things help it to it's not just a trend. That's people don't realize, like, mental health is just as simple as your physical health. People are, they go get their physicals every year, sometimes multiple times a year. But when it comes to our mental health, we shortchange ourselves. We aren't checking in with our mental health to really see how we are really doing. And I think being able to just really hone in on that question and identifying what mental health means to you and how you can show up for yourself and for others, that helps it to be, like we talked about with the storytelling, that helps it to be authentic. Like, people don't realize their story is made up of the good, the ugly, the bad, the ups, the downs, the tears, like all of that makes your story authentic and true. And being able to have those conversations with other people as well as yourself, it keeps it real. Like, it just keeps it real.
Period. I mean, it's the truth. Like, okay, so you're saying that, like, you're wanting to be a mental health advocate, or that you are, but are you asking the hard questions? It's like I feel like on social media, sometimes there's like a very surface level to it. And like I had mentioned previously, TWLOHA kind of covers the dark and deeper side of mental health. Like I said, self-injury, suicide, eating disorders, addiction. Like, there's still a lot of stigmas and there's still a lot of negative connotations when people think of those words. So we are still actively trying to break those stigmas, but TWLOHA is very open about talking about those things, because mental health is not just, oh, I have anxiety. Mental health isn't, oh, I have depression. Like, it is so much more. And I wrote about this a little bit, and I'm going to read off a little bit of what I wrote just because, like, it feels comfortable for me at this moment. So I mentioned that this one is tough because I, for one, am very happy to see that mental health is trending. I'm very happy to see that it is being talked about more, especially this day and age, coming after generations that were like, oh, don't worry about it, just smile or do yoga. Like, it's very good to see, like, have you tried smiling lately? Like, whatever. So I'm glad to see that we're talking about it more. However, I think the most important part for us, especially as content creators, I want to come at it from that perspective too. Like, we need to be paying attention to who is only just talking the talk, but who is talking the talk and walking the walk, because that seems to be the most important part, as like, who is actually doing the work, which creators and businesses and brands, are using their efforts to actively make a difference when it comes to those suffering from mental health related things. Like, as content creators, I feel like we need to pay attention to those things, right? So I'm coming at it from like a content perspective with that part. And then the second part, which Bree kind of touched on, it is being raw and real with your audience. I know I keep saying this, but TWLOHA covers very deep parts of mental health, the dark parts that some people tend to stray away from. They don't want to talk about those things because they feel too dark and too scary, and it's not really something that we all can relate to or something that we all understand, but it's the very reality of mental health and what people can deal with on a daily basis. There's still a lot of stigmas that surround the darker parts of mental health, and it's not just bad days. It's like, it's the dark, deep shit. Like, this is really happening to people out here, like these dark parts. And it's wild to think that someone who suffers from mental health and addiction is viewed differently than someone with just anxiety. Like I said, there are still stigmas that are out there. And I say this because when I was in college getting my psychology degree, I worked at an addiction clinic for women. and the stigmas that not only they put on themselves, but the people in the community put on them, was honestly heart-wrenching. And to know that someone with anxiety, they're viewed so differently with someone that suffers from addiction, it breaks my heart, because they're all like, mental health is like this, right? Like, I guess like a spectrum, or there's like an umbrella, right? And so it's like, we have to care about all parts of it. We can't just care about one part of it. So when you see content creators and brands and all of these things only supporting the one part, it's kind of like a red flag. It's like, well, yeah, like, okay, that's great. Thank you so much for talking about mental health. But like, I thought about suicide the other day, and it's just, it's important. It's important. And so I think as content creators, it's important that we pay attention to that. Plus, I think another important aspect to remember is, and I don't mean to say this, but I'm just going to say it plainly, the generations before us that didn't care about mental health are slowly dying away. So it's only up from here, if I can be quite frank. So, yeah, that's kind of my spiel, if you will. I'll get off my soapbox now, but that's kind of my spiel on that very specific thing.
That was a perfect segue into something that I've been thinking about, just hearing you talk about how it's a spectrum. And someone mentioned that, Rosie mentioned that in chat. And you were talking about older generations, and it just made me be like, oh, this is perfect, because I was thinking about how mental health can affect you in different ways as you age. So it can look completely different when you're a child, because you don't have that background of what feelings mean, and you don't really understand them yet, or you do, but your perspective might be a little skewed. Then as you get older, it's hormones and your body changing, and you're growing, and feelings for people and things like that. And then adulthood and the struggles that come with that. And then you age and you're elderly, and you might experience things like dementia and Alzheimer's, and just your brain is literally deteriorating, and you have no control of it. And there are so many different aspects of mental health that can affect you depending on how old you are, your environment, because that can definitely affect it too. Like you mentioned about addiction, and just how other people receive that and treat you, because that goes into it so much more too. So I think that it's so important to acknowledge that it's not just what's in the DSM-5, for example. There's so much more than that. Like, that's just textbook knowledge, but people are so multifaceted, and that's something that we've been talking about all of this week. So thank you for that perspective, Ash. I really appreciate it.
Right, of course. And Bree, I kind of want to like do a side question to this. I obviously don't want to take up too much time, but like,
go for it.
Also, we're women, and how we deal with mental health and perceive mental health is also different. And also, being a woman of color, that is also another thing. Like, being Latina, mental health was never talked about in my home, and it's still very much like a don't worry about it, just rub some dirt in it kind of thing, And so, like, there's also that perspective that we come at as well. And Bree, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
I agree with you 100%. Growing up, and I think I did a couple of videos with TWLOHA just talking about growing up in a African American household with, like you said, just a generation of people who, what is mental health? No, you need to go to sleep. You can drink some ginger ale. You can pray about it. And there was this instance I always talk about. I was really upset about something, and I called my best friend. I was in middle school, and my mom heard me telling her what was happening and what I was going through. And my mom literally came and snatched my phone and hung up. And she was like, "You don't tell people about what goes on in this house." And that's just a
Mm.
generational statement from just, my mom said that to me because her mom said it to her because her mom said it to her. And it just had been this generational thing of,
Mhm.
no, we not talking to people about this is our house, our business. We don't need to let other people know what's going on. When in reality, we needed to let people know what was going on. I had been dealing with anxiety and depression since I would probably say elementary school. I was
Mhm.
very detached, quiet. I had physical health stuff going on and I was miserable. Like I wasn't okay, but because that wasn't a conversation that we had, I didn't know until late in my later years. I also majored in psychology. I played basketball and I started to have anxiety attacks on the basketball court, like in the middle of
Mm.
basketball games. And I'm like hyperventilating and I'm like, trying to figure out what's going on. And it's just like, oh, I've had
Mm.
anxiety all this time. Like, so just, being intentional about doing the work myself so that I can be an advocate. I've gone to therapy. I've gotten my brothers in therapy. Still working on my mom. Like I said, she's part of that older generation, but it's definitely, across the board, different cultures, different races. It's just not something that is just readily accepted and talked about. Even when we're little and we're taught emotions. A lot of the emotions we talk about are taught are basic level emotions: happy,
Mm.
sad, angry. We don't get into those emotions of I feel anxious, I feel detached, and granted, yes, there's a certain age where you can kind of start introducing these conversations. Thankfully, there are books and stuff now, and
Mhm.
education about it. But yeah, we weren't taught about those things in elementary school, at home, or at school. So
Right.
thank
Right.
God
And
things are progressing though.
yes, yes, and that's why that question was tough because, like, yes, like we're talking about it more, yeah, but like, okay, let's be real about it though. Hold on, like, there's still roses and candy and flowers to what you're saying, and that's not the reality. And I got super emotional when you were talking, Bree, because yes, 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 and yes, a lot of the same things. I went through a lot of those same things, and it and I started getting emotional because my abuelita, which is my grandmother, she officially started therapy this year. And that is just, it goes to show that no matter your age, like you can still help yourself and you
Hmm.
can still love yourself. And I wanted to say that too. And I'm just like the work millennials get a lot of hate,
Hmm.
okay, but we're cycle breakers, okay, we are cycle breakers, and it's such a beautiful thing to see, especially with like our work environment at TWLOHA. Like we are all cycle breakers together. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Tell
mhm.
Abuelita that we celebrate with her.
Hell yeah, abuelita.
Uh-huh. Absolutely,
Very,
absolutely,
very
because
proud of her.
yeah, it's just like what Christian said, like the generations before us, like and especially like people of color, like they think that if you ask for help, it means that you're weak or that you don't know, especially like people who migrate over here, like, oh, if I have to ask for help, that means like I could possibly get in trouble, or like I'm not gonna accumulate or acclimate to the United States correctly if I have to ask for help all the time. But it's like, like, no, that's not the case. So W's in chat for Abuelita. Um, so I think it also comes with like a cultural thing too, of like if we ask for help, then we're seen as weak, and then they're gonna possibly kick us out of the United States because we were asking for help, like kind of thing. Like it's survival. It purely the generations before us, it was about survival, and now, we're getting to rewrite that, and yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that, Natalie, because I think it's important to kind of talk about that aspect of it too when it
Yeah,
comes to the
of
messaging and everything.
course. It
Mm-hmm.
funny enough, it reminds me of a meme that I saw probably like 30 minutes before we started. Uh it was on Instagram. I don't remember what the graphic was, but it said the urge to go to my family is something long. I'm paraphrasing, but the urge to go to my family and say it shows when they say therapy. We don't do therapy. it's like, it's like,
Yeah, we know.
the urge is there all the time.
Yeah, I see. I can
I
tell.
can tell. Yeah, it shows. But also just hearing what Bree was talking about with emotions and how we grow up learning basic emotions, which is a good start, obviously, and it helps us understand social cues for when we start school, which I think is important. This conversation reminded me a lot of when I was younger and I went with my family to see the first Inside Out movie in theaters. And one of my family members who was with us is my niece, who is on the autism spectrum. And for her, emotions are very difficult to grasp and understand. And she's one of those people that when she doesn't understand why she's feeling a certain way, she gets very angry and just it's an intense rage, and she's like throwing a tantrum and throwing things around. And by the way, now she's like in her mid-20s, so I'm sure she's very different. I haven't seen her in a while, but I'm sure she's very different from when she was then, because at that point she was probably like 12. And when we were walking out of the theater, my sister and I were asking her if she liked the movie and what her favorite part was, like the typical things you ask a kid. And she started talking about how the characters helped her understand certain feelings because of the colors, the tone in their voice, their mannerisms, and just like how they moved around, and their gestures, and just their overall behavior. And it helped her understand the division between more pleasant feelings like joy versus more unpleasant feelings like anger. And like my sister and I were both like sobbing like how proud we were of her for being able to just depict that in a way that she and I would effortlessly, but for her it was more of a challenge. And she started to like tell stories of how like at school she experienced something and how it made her feel a certain way, and it reminded her of X character from Inside Out and how he or she did this or said that. And it's like, it makes sense now. And we were just like really emotional about it. And it's just really cool to grow up in a time and in a world where we have these artistic and creative minds making things like this to not only normalize feelings and expressing them, but also making it easy for younger minds to understand and grasp and relate to it in a way that's entertaining, but not to the point of ridiculing anyone or belittling them for having those feelings. I just wanted to share that little tidbit.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And Bree, I think this is a great like mention of our school program, Between the Bells. We go to middle schools and high schools, and we do a week-long program with students talking about mental health, and raising awareness on mental health and showing them ways that they can care for themselves. And if I'm missing, it's a week long, correct? And it's led by the administration. Yeah. Great program.
Absolutely great.
Yeah. And we have all of the information on that. So if you are interested in, sending that to a little sister, a little brother, or, a family member or a cousin or something like that, please let us know. We do have the Between the Bells program, and I'm glad that we're getting to younger ears so that they can understand the complexities that are within mental health. So just a little side to the side.
Yeah, it's destigmatizing what Bree was talking about how we don't talk about things that are from. Yeah, everything's just flowing really well, and I'm so glad that we kind of pivoted a little bit, because sometimes that's the best way to host one of these kinds of events. Just what you said made me think of this, and then actually what you said made me think of this, and it makes me so happy, because I came into this with set questions, but obviously I want you both to feel like you can share things that are on your mind that aren't necessarily on topic, but are still relevant to the conversation, because what you both think and feel is important too, not just my list of questions that I wrote. We can get to those if we get to them, and if not, this conversation's been valuable regardless. So just to perfectly segue again, I wanted to get more into the tangible tools that TWLOHA offers, because we are running short on time, and I want to make sure that we incorporate that while also respecting y'all's time, because that's important to me. So this might be more of a Bree question, but To Write Love on Her Arms provides a number of free and accessible mental health tools. Can you walk us through some that viewers can check out after this event?
Yes. So the first one, which is one that I mentioned in my introduction, is the Find Help tool. So the Find Help tool is a database of mental health resources across the United States that are free, affordable, or sliding scale. So if you go to our website and you select Find Help at the top, it'll take you to our Find Help tool, and there are several different categories already listed that you can select from. So I think it's like support groups, therapy, inpatient, outpatient, and then you can type in your zip code, and whatever resources that we have, thanks Ash, whatever resources we have within your area, you can access them. A lot of them have where you can go ahead and submit a referral right there. You could call them. And it's just a really helpful tool. Also, if you know of any free, affordable, or sliding scale resources in your guys' community, you can go and suggest a program, and we can get them added to the tool, because there are a lot of what we call mental health deserts, which are like these rural areas where, for the amount of people that they don't have the amount of providers in that area, and also the lack of representation. So making sure that, when an African American person does decide to go to therapy, that they are able or have access to providers that look like them, so that they will feel understood. And of course, with all other races and cultures. So definitely go, and if you guys know of any programs, go ahead and suggest the program. We do ask that you let the programs know that you recommended them, because we have had some providers like, hey, what is this? How did I get on here? So we do love for you guys to go and add providers on there. So that's one of our free tools. Another thing that we have is our mental health toolkit, which is just so awesome. The team put a lot of work into it, and I just love it. So the mental health toolkit has guided practices, so like self-relaxation, some guided relaxation. It has worksheets, so worksheets that you could actually print off, or you could send someone the link and they could download these worksheets and like really talk about how they're doing. There's some checklists, like, have I eaten today? Different things like that. There are affirmations, some stories of hope. We even have some music playlists. So they asked everybody on the team, hey, what are some songs you know that really help you, encourage you when you're feeling down and low and stuff. So we have some playlists, a list of resources, and then we also have the link to our app. So our app, which is also free, it has pretty much a lot of the same things. I don't think it has like the worksheets and stuff, but it has like the affirmations, the guided relaxation. It also has like a journal where you can go and check in like every day. You could either just journal how you feel, or there's a prompt or like a question or something, and you could journal there. And we don't see that. It's all like confidential. We don't have access to it, but that's also one of our free tools. And then of course we have our treatment and recovery scholarship program, which I also mentioned earlier. It's free to apply. You just have to have a therapist already identified. And like Ash mentioned earlier, the applications are open until May 31st. So we do pay up to $100 per session for up to one session per week. So a total of 12 sessions. So that could either be weekly or bi-weekly. So yeah, we're really trying to be about what our mission says. We want to address those barriers to treatment, which are, access, information and education, being able to pay for the treatment because, like I said, the cost of treatment, it can get pretty pricey. We also have I just remembered, we partner with BetterHelp. We know that there have been mixed reviews, but they partner with us to give people 3 months of free therapy. So if you go on our website, the Find Help page where the application is, there's a link to get signed up for that, and you get 3 free months. So you can test it out. You can try it out. Just if you're thinking about therapy, like you can just go ahead and test it out while it's free and then go from there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Everything that Bree said, like, obviously, please utilize those tools. I have utilized the mental health toolkit multiple times, especially since being introduced to it when I came into TWLOHA. I've already used it a ton, and the app is absolutely fantastic. Some of those resources are on the app. So if you're on the go and you just like need a 1-minute breath work exercise, it's there on the app for you to just like take a moment to yourself. I love the mental health toolkit. I work with Kat directly, and Kat has put so much love into Kat and Kayla. They've put so much love into this mental health toolkit. We are constantly reviewing it, trying to add more things to it. I know when we did our TWLOHA meetup at PAX East, a fellow ambassador, TWLOHA ambassador, mentioned possibly having creators make some playlists so you can listen to your favorite creators playlist, and just like listen to the music that they listen to when they're going through a tough time. But I cannot express how much these tools mean to me, just as a person outside of TWLOHA. Just knowing that there are resources that we can lean on that are free is huge. And this is kind of like where my job comes in too, is when you fundraise for TWLOHA, you are ensuring that we get to keep these resources free. They are no cost to the communities that we support. They're completely free. So when you fundraise for us, you're helping us to keep these like resources active. So very huge thing that you're doing, especially at this day and age, like Bree has mentioned, like the economy right now and just the state of everything. It's so tough. And just knowing that there are places where you can lean on folks like TWLOHA is so huge. So huge. So definitely take a look. I posted all of the links that I could like grab really quick, as well as some screenshots. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to Bree. We're here to help anytime. So, and yeah, our merch is pretty freaking sick. I'm not kidding. Like the softest shirts I've ever worn in my entire life. Like,
I can
oh my
attest
God.
to that.
Yes. I can't. And I even have the shirt that says "Stop apologizing for existing." If you flip it inside out, there's a whole letter written to you about your existence and how important you are in this world. Yeah. So if you flip the shirt inside out, you can read the letter on there. It's really sweet. So just like things like that. And then on one of our sweatshirts, it says "keep breathing." And then on the sleeve is a breath exercise where you like move your finger and it helps you just like breathe in and out. It's like an infinity symbol. Like our merch is really cool. We, like Bree mentioned, like not only are we talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. We're making sure that these resources are useful and free. Accessible. Accessibility is huge in the mental health industry. And that's what I mean. Like when you're working with these brands, y'all, especially as content creators, make sure that they are really supporting what they say that they support. So, and I'm, no shade. I'm just, I'm so glad everyone is talking about mental health. I just want you to be safe as a content creator is what I'm getting at. Because I'm a content creator too. So
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And this is a great segue into another question that I had too. So thank you for setting me up for success. So we have the tools, which by the way, all of these links will be in the description of the YouTube video that I'm going to upload later with the audio. So if you didn't grab them now, or if you closed them by accident, you will have a place that you can go to find them. So I got you. So you had mentioned, both of you mentioned actually, ways to help keep these tools free and accessible, which is fundraising, purchasing merch, spreading the word, obviously. For those who may not be a part of the ambassador program like I am, it may not be as evident how to support TWLOHA and support mental health in a capacity like we do, just being front-facing representatives of the team. So what are some other ways that people who are listening can provide that support that TWLOHA might need to continue to do these cool things?
So like I said, I am the community manager. So a lot of these things is what I work on a daily basis. How can you, as a person, even as a content creator, how can you help? I just dropped our Discord link in the chat. I try to update on a weekly basis in there, just to let you know like what initiatives we have coming up, and our fundraising goals and just like events and just like all sorts of things. So I know that joining Discords can be overwhelming. I totally and completely understand. But if you do want to directly connect with other people who also love TWLOHA as well as myself, that is a great place to go. But also we fundraise through Tiltify. We also fundraise through, I think it's called GoFundMe Pro, but I think at one point it was called Classy. So there are ways to do that, especially as a streamer. Tiltify is so wonderful, like to have that. And I can get you any assets that you need. Ask the question again because I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it's basically like finding ways to support the endeavors that you all have to provide these free and accessible tools that people can consider if they're trying to find ways to support and they're not in the ambassador program, or right now you mentioned the Discord. So that's a really good example of kind of what I was trying to get at, to get more involved, basically.
Right. And I remember my thought has come back to the train station. We will also be opening up our ambassador program again soon. I emoji. So keep a lookout for that. So if you are wanting to get involved on a more dedicated scale, I support the ambassador program too. So it's been a lot of fun. I've had a blast with it. So you'll be able to stream on the Twitch channel and do giveaways and things like that. So very excited to connect if that is something that you're interested in. So definitely keep a lookout for that. But yeah, I would say like from a content creator perspective, and I'm sure Bree can touch on non-content creation things, but like Tiltify, GoFundMe Pro, I think, like I said, it was known as Classy. We also have a 5K initiative, which is where this shirt comes from, where people run 5Ks or like run in general and fundraise while they're running. And, we have our mental health awareness month, which is right now. And then we have suicide prevention, which is in September. So if you are wanting to fundraise for us to, again, help these tools and these resources, we do have that coming up. Which again, if you join the Discord, I'll be sure to share that directly with all of you. Bree, was there anything that I missed? Because like I said, I came at it from a content creator perspective. So
you did awesome. I would definitely also say to make sure to follow us on socials. So Facebook, Instagram, I believe Twitter. I don't really tweet. I think I'm just saying sorry. But yeah, make sure to follow us on our socials. We're always posting, I think, just about daily on there. Also to sign up for our newsletter if you haven't. They out like surprise little gifts and stuff. You get like special insights and invites and stuff. So definitely sign up for that. Um, yeah, keep checking out the events page. We sometimes do like a